Hello and welcome to the Rites of War podcast. I'm the Miniatures Apothecary.
And I'm Mr. Moritz.
And I'm Valhammer.
So this is the first episode. Just run with it. This is the first episode of the Rites of War podcast, where we talk all things heresy. Mort, do you want to kick us off? You know, why you got into the heresy?
Yeah, sure. I started back in 1989, playing role-playing games and just wanted to do something different. And being of Sweden, we played a lot of Swedish role-playing games. So I went to our capital, Stockholm, and into one of these great stores when you were a kid, just filled with games. And I bought a game called Space Marine. That later became Epic. And I started playing that with my brother in 1989 on a green cloth with books under it to represent the hills. And that's actually how I started a Horus Heresy, without knowing it, of course. And then I just kept on doing Games Workshop games until 2014. I was persuaded by a friend to try Horus Heresy out, and it was just when the 7th edition was, I think that was when 6th and 7th edition of 40k came, and the 7th just degraded into nothingness with all the stuff that came, and then it burned out to the 8th, and I stayed in Horus Heresy because I did not fancy the 8th edition of Hammer 40k.
So you were enabled into heresy then?
Well, you could say that the Betrayal of Calth box was a big enabler, and then the Burning of Prospero, both of those boxes made it much easier to come into Horus Heresy than before. Because Forge World is, as everyone knows, it's your kidney and your money. So I started there and just been collecting, playing and painting for since then, and I'm one of those guys that just can't stop with one legion. I have to carry on with another and another and another. So I have about I think I have 5 legions at 3,000 points, and another 3 in the making.
Right.
Yeah. So my first legion was Raven Guards, and I quickly got over to Iron Warriors as a sort of eBay purchase. So then I had 2, and it just kept on rolling. So that's the way it is. I mean, I've been painting like my entire life, from Prince August, all make your own tin miniatures, until now when you're buying really expensive resin.
I have to ask, why Raven Guard?
Why Raven Guard? Well, I mean, you read the books, you try to find the fluff, and at the same time you don't want to collide with someone that's close to you in the community, so you have similar armies. And Raven Guards sounded like a fun force, though it's quite hard to play Raven Guards depending on the meta, but they are foot slogging and infiltrating, which means that you don't have so much armor in your lists. But they can, as any army, if they have the right mission, they can do fairly well.
I'm quite partial to foot slogging armies, but I've never even contemplated Raven Guard.
I know when you see a lot of events either, they're quite a rare faction.
Yeah. Do you think it's because they're difficult to play, or?
Well, they are limited in the choices of tanks, because you can't have more vehicles than you have units with Legion Astartes rule. Although every HQ is of course a single unit, so but you can't do an all-out mechanized army with a lot of tanks to support them. But every unit has infiltrate, so you get where you want to. Although the FAQ with the Auspex kind of put us a little on the back foot. Then again, they have a good drop army choice, which means you can build a quite nice drop pod list. And they have some special characters that makes it even better. So
now you're speaking my language. Drop pods.
Yeah.
There's a couple of units that get Furious Charge as well, which can make them a surprisingly useful close combat army. So Terminators and Jump Pack Infantry, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, correct. They get the Furious Charge and bikes as well, so there is. I mean, you can of course do shenanigans. You can put a Forge Lord with a bike unit, give him rad grenades, and give the unit as much access as you can.
Yeah.
And you will insta give Marines on the charge. And you can do that with Assault Marines as well.
With axing.
Yeah, well, it's of course limited number of axes. I think is 1 per 5, so 15 Assault Marines get 3 axes plus the Sergeant.
You can have up to 4. I think it is 1 per 5, but it includes the Sergeant. So in a full unit of 20, you could have 4.
Yeah.
Plus the Sergeant, so you'd have 5 power axes in the unit.
Yeah.
But as you say, that's not a huge number.
No, and of course you can always be countered with those pipe plates, which is the foot slogging army's worst nightmare. But I mean, it's all up to either if you do just an event. I mean, you get what you get in the opponents. Otherwise, you can always build a scenario that's kind of parrying out the most negative things for both armies.
Yeah, there's definitely things you can do to mitigate elements of it, but it's not an easy army to play as a pickup army. Depending on what your local meta will dictate quite a lot of your success rate with them.
Yeah,
because they're not one I've seen like on a regular basis. 40k wise, I see it. Like you see Raven Guard a fair bit, but not for the Heresy.
Yeah, it could also be essentially a hobby side of things, as well as people don't want to paint that much black.
Well, you thought that'd have been easy.
Definitely can be. It can be a tricky colour depending on method. But given that most Heresy players I know have moved to airbrushing, black becomes quite a bit easier.
Yeah. Okay, so you started with Raven Guard and then you went to Iron Warriors. Was that just like because you wanted to change from foot slogging and you wanted to do more tanks, or?
Well, Iron Warriors, that was a mix over from 40k because I played the Chaos Army there, and I figured I wanted something that could play in both. I could use rhinos and other vehicles, and I liked the Iron Warrior, the metal finish on them for 40k. So that was when I was looking at Heresy Army, a Traitor Army. Iron Warriors look cool, and I'm also Grumpy Man, so Perturabo kind of hit my notes. So and then of course I found a used army that someone sold at eBay, so I got that, and with a fair amount, so I could just pick it up and continue building it. So I did.
Everyone gets to that stage where Perturabo appeals to them in one way, shape, or form.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it turned out I have now like 7 and that was points of my hero.
Nice.
See, that's an army I can appreciate right there. Oh,
Yeah, and I took all my old and all that and just converted it into figures instead of keeping them in 40k. So
Yeah.
I have a good armored breakthrough list with, I think it's 9 predators, normal predators, and then some plasma predators, and indicators and Medusa's. So I can do an all armor list there.
yeah.
So yeah, it really is the complete opposite to your Raven Guard then.
Well, they are, and of course I have enough to do a list that can use the Iron Fire as well.
Yeah.
So I can do Rhino Charge and then just bombard the living daylights out of the opponent. Not too popular to meet though.
I can't think why.
Yeah, it's a very good and competitive list with Iron Warriors because they have almost no drawback and a lot of shenanigans, either the Sons of Olympia or the Iron Fire. Makes them really hard.
Even just their base Legion trait is probably one of the strongest in the game.
Yeah.
Just, I don't take morale from shooting. That's fantastic. Like, you know it's going to come up in every game. It's always going to be useful. There's never going to be a point where it's going to let you down, because it just is. Like, it's a constant buff that's always on. And means that you don't necessarily need to invest in Vexillas, so you save 10 points per squad through that as well.
Yeah, but you are taking like you're basically taking the Vox instead.
True.
Because you want that artillery to hit home every single time.
Well, that's why you have the Iron Fire. You just move up close and they won't scatter just half.
Yeah.
The ultimate definition of danger close.
Yeah, in the wire. Definitely. In the wire. No stuttering, no hesitation, just drop it.
I used to have an Iron Warriors army. That was one of my early heresy forces. They're good fun.
Yeah, see, everyone has that moment. Everyone gets to that point where Iron Warriors are appealing.
They're just, to Morris's point, like, they're just cool. Like, they're grumpy, tough, determined siege masters.
Yeah.
Who like big guns.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think the siege the siege master thing is sort of lost when you look how people build their lists. There's not much assaulting in the Iron Warrior list. It's mainly just shooting.
Yeah.
And if you look at the fluff and the books and all that, they're always charging and just going over the ramparts. I don't really see that in most people's Horus Heresy lists, though.
No, it's definitely not something that comes across in the gameplay as often as I would like either. Because I can't remember which book it's in. There's a passage where someone describes the Iron Warriors as basically being as feral as World Eaters on the charge. The difference is that the Iron Warriors can stop.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, I know which book you're referring to now.
I really like that because it does change that whole kind of just a gunline thing into we're still Space Marines. They're still going to get in close and mess you up. You're still going to have a bad day.
But I guess that's down to like each person's preference.
Yeah, I think it's also the nature of Heresy as a game, and the strengths of the Iron Warriors rules do favour a more standoffish approach, I think.
Yeah.
You absolutely can do close quarters Iron Warriors armies. It's very possible because you're not taking the morale as you're running in, so you're able to to just kind of commit to a charge and not worry about getting shot in the process. But it definitely does. The Iron Fire in particular doesn't necessarily favour assault-based troops, but it does favour tactical squads in the midfield.
Yeah, it's definitely something I want to. That element I'd like to get in mind. It's making it so it's viable though.
I don't think there's anything about it that wouldn't be viable. I think you'll have a range of potential success with it. But it's absolutely viable as an army concept to do a close quarters Iron Warriors army.
Yeah, right. I guess viable was possibly the wrong word. Yeah, I get what you mean. It's definitely something you don't see a lot of.
And then again, we don't even have very good or price-worthy assault marine options due to the hefty price on 5 assault marines.
Yeah, assault marines are not cheap, and they do die a lot. Although I am working on a 20-man squad for my Space Wolves at the moment. All with combat share. It's like 400 points for the unit. It's completely no sense, but
it looks cool.
Absolutely, yeah.
If they're gonna go looking cool.
Exactly that. So they've got the Grey Slayer shields from Forge World on them.
Oh,
nice.
In fact, if I can get to the coloured, I'll pull a couple out in a second.
I was gonna showing off.
Well, this is what will be a Space Wolves Siege Breaker. That's on.
Oh, nice.
Just a simple Power Fist resin head.
Yeah.
Legion pad, and then various grenades and bits. There's the backing from Grey Hunter just onto a Mark III chest piece, which didn't fit naturally because the pegs are on both
on the opposite side.
Yeah. So the 40k back piece had pegs, and the front piece had pegs as well.
Yeah.
So they're just kind of cut and shut it together, really.
It's got two choices, really, hasn't it? It's going to fit or it's going to fit.
Yeah, I didn't really give it much choice. And then there's Moritzka was working on as well.
I like that. That's cool.
Didn't commit to the double plasma. I didn't want him to fry himself in the first turn, so he'll get some destroyers to go with him at some point. And probably a Rhino rather than a Land Raider. Keep it cheap.
Keep them cheerful.
Well, they're kind of a forlorn hope unit, right? Like, they're not going to survive long enough to be useful, so they may as well have a cheap transport to get them there in the first place.
Yeah. Well, I guess as we've already started, like, moving in Valhammer's general direction, go on then. Yeah.
So, the novels fundamentally was the thing that drew me in. So I remember reading Horus Rising for the first time. I'd been in the hobby for about 10-15 years at this point. And obviously you know of the Horus Heresy when you start in the hobby, if you start in 40k, but it was never really expanded upon. There was never any depth to it other than it being this kind of world-shattering apocalypse that happens 10,000 years beforehand. And then they started doing the Black Library novels, and that just completely caught me. Ended up chatting to a few folk like Lex Head, who runs Crusade and Heresy. I knew Lex from 40k tournament days back in kind of 2009 to 2013 kind of era. So similar to the timings of Moritzka. Looking at things like I was playing tournaments throughout kind of the end of 5th up to 7th. I met Lex through one of those. He then got me involved in some of the Heresy stuff. My first army was White Scars. It was a White Scars jet bike army. Starting with the idea of like, oh, maybe they'll get rules at some point fairly soon. It'll be fine. This was in like 2014, 2015. Needless to say, I didn't continue with them. I ended up shifting them on when I realised that rules weren't going to be forthcoming anytime soon. And also just had a really, really bad time with Storm Eagles building them. So I was like, I'm not building more of these. This has completely killed my love for this army. So from there, I ended up doing Space Wolves. And Iron Warriors. I think Iron Warriors came before the Space Wolves actually, because they had the full rules from Book 3, and were put across into the Red Books as well. So then did the Iron Warriors Grand Company, and that was a massive infantry, like 80 infantry, nearly 100 infantry, backed up with Medusas and things like that. So very much based around the idea of the slow walk forward to take the objective while cover fire rains down from on high. Then while I was working at Warhammer World, Inferno dropped and the Space Wolves got their rules, so I spent far more of my paycheck than was sensible buying a lot of Space Wolves in one go.
That was your paycheck, wasn't it?
Pretty much, yeah, it wasn't far off. And ended up, I think I've now got something like 8,000 points of Space Wolves in various kind of half or fully finished, or in some cases part built form. And the idea for those was always going to be to run them as an infantry horde. So Bloody Claw is one of the strongest Rites of War in the game, in my opinion, and puts an already combat-heavy and potent army on even more of a front foot, especially with their key units. So that became my main line for most of the last 7-8 years. Less than that, 6 years. There we go, 2016 to now. But with the rise of kind of Return to Isfahan, which was a community-led 1,500 point Centurion thing, which kicked off a couple of years ago and then COVID delayed it, I ended up getting into the Sons of Horus and going with the Arch Traitors. So I've now got, bought and built, I've got 3,000 points of Orbital Assault Sons of Horus, of which one squad and one character is mostly painted. And I've got an event in March to go to, which I need 3,000 points painted for, so I'm going to have to step up my game a little bit between now and then. Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, most of the stuff I need to do requires the airbrush, which makes it difficult to do if I'm doing any kind of streaming or recording work, because the compressor and the booth are quite loud.
Yeah.
So it's trying to fit in getting the airbrush phases done as quickly as possible when I've got the time off stream and off camera. To then work on the brush work in the rest of it. But I'm enjoying them though. I'm really enjoying them. They're an interesting colour scheme to take on. They're not a colour scheme I would want to do without an airbrush. It's very possible, and you can do a lot of blending and glazing, or just go for a kind of a single colour and go with the heavy metal style of kind of layer, base, and highlight. But for me, I think the slightly kind of shifting hue across the plate really works for them with the greens and the blues. So glad I've got the airbrush for that, and teaching me a few new skills along the way. So that's been my heresy journey in a nutshell, really.
And there's me just sat here feeling very inadequate at that entire comment.
You're not inadequate, my friend. You are very far from it.
I do like you. Yeah, I do like the way you've done your Sons of Horus. I must admit, they look really cool.
For the benefit of the camera, pull a couple out of them. So the Terminator Squad themselves are pretty much done now, or at least they're tabletop ready. I need to go back and layer and highlight the leather, but by and large, they're now ready to go.
Yeah, they do look good to them.
So transferred up with unit markings. This one's the sergeant, so he's got the gold rather than the black, and then got the Centurion to go with them. So I need to go back over the metals. I over-oiled the metals; they're a bit duller than they should be, and the leather obviously need highlighting on this guy as well. But
they just need a nice, cool, Terminator mace wielding Praetor to go with them.
You mean this chap?
Yeah. Ooh, what have you done with him?
So I gave him a Thunder Hammer instead of the Power Mace.
Cool.
So it's just a very simple chop and reattach really. The hand came off nice and easily. The pommel of the mace, as you know, because you're working on it yourself, it does attach onto the back of the van brace, which I had to be a bit careful around there not to destroy any detail while I was shaving it free. But yeah, he'll be one of the next ones to get done. So just gave him a standard combi bolter instead of the combi weapon. I'll use the combi weapon on something else at some point, I'm sure. I've got a head for him over there, somewhere in the pile of potential on my desk. And I need to get the cloak put in place. So I'm going to do the painting of the armour first, and then put the cloak in place after. Is the plan.
It's good.
But it's a lovely model. It's such a brilliant sculpt, and really captures the kind of Sons of Horus nature.
Oh yes, so much gold trim.
Yes, he's definitely not short of trim, is he?
No.
So yeah, it's going to take me a while to go around and paint all that in with the bronze. But
I don't even know whether I'll have all the trim finished on this by the time we've finished this evening. If there's that much trim, it takes forever.
Yeah, it's a good couple hours of work to get it all done.
Yeah.
So the reason I went for the combi bolter rather than the combi weapon is purely for bane strike bolts. Like, I know they're not particularly effective, but they're too cool not to take.
Yeah. Yeah, that's understandable.
Yeah, and the question that everyone says to another Sons of Horus player, what recipe are you doing for your sea green?
Yeah. But show me 3 Sons of Horus players, and I'll show you 3 different paint schemes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mine's actually lifted from Miles David, Little Legend Studios.
Yep.
He's got a really good tutorial online, which is it's a lot of steps and a lot of processes, but it's quite simple and methodical and yields quite a nice result in the end. But it's basically just using the GW Lupercal and Sons of Horus greens, with a bit of pale flesh mixed in for the highlight at the end, and then you just glaze it back over with Colia green shade, do some recess shading with Rhinox hide and things like that, and then do the oils and you're done. So it seems to have worked out alright for me.
Sons of Horus green on its own, I didn't realise how nice it was until I started painting Sons of Horus, and I was like, okay, I'm going to use this for a heck of a lot more than just these Sons of Horus.
Yeah, it's quite a nice. It's almost like a drab green, but without the kind of olive to it. Yeah. So it's quite a washed out tone, but it's really nice.
We're talking in GWs.
The Citadel one, yeah. So yeah, Citadel Sons of Horus green.
Yeah.
I've got Lupercal here somewhere on my ever more chaotic.
Yeah, because we could have gone into all fit about in their paint line.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I can tell, all of the ones that Forge World binned off that Citadel have now picked up, they're pretty much a shade match. I'm not noticed any that are wildly off what they used to be. So it's hopefully not an issue for anyone.
I haven't had an issue with it. I got some just before they dropped it, and I painted like 1 or 2 models, and then they obviously went. I lost it in a move, and was like, oh no, I need to replace it. And yeah, it matches pretty well. To be honest. I love the fact that like everyone's so far like just out of us 3, it's like, yes, I had one army and then I went Iron Warriors.
Yeah, so how about you, me?
Well, I hope you don't expect me to be too detailed with dates, because you know I'm terrible with dates. Probably round about the same time as you guys, to be honest. I think I'd read Horus Rising 2 or 3 times before picking up any sort of miniatures. First miniature was actually an apothecary as well, but I painted it in the Sons of Horus colours just to see what it was like. But it's always been like you get introduced to it when you start 40k, and there's no real detail, and then obviously the novels, and I just went from there. But I was always always wanted to do the Space Wolves, and it wasn't until the last 2-3 years I've started expanding into the other legions. So again, Iron Warriors and Sons of Horus. Iron Warriors, similar reasons to what you were saying, Mortis. And Sons of Horus, just because I don't know. I think it was the colour scheme, to be honest. They're just so nice and a lot of fun to paint. But yeah, for me it's very simple, it's very basic. It seemed like the natural transition after so long, if that makes sense.
As in, the game system.
Yeah, I mean, I missed 8th. Like, I'm not completely. Like, I was still painting and I was still reading the novels, but I weren't gaming in the slightest. I had carried on playing a couple of games of 7th edition with some local friends, and they'd all pretty much gone the same way. Like, for whatever reason, they'd had personal issues and just ended up staying with 7th.
Mm-hmm.
So we were pretty much playing Heresy anyway. And then one of them got hold of one of the black books, and that were it. It was just like, oh, it's 7th with a little bit of extra flavour. Cool. Let's give this a shot. Yeah, just playing Marines and painting Marines for so long, it just seemed like a natural transition going from 40k into the Horus Heresy anyway. I don't know, there's something about it. I think it's just probably just from being a bit of a Marine fanboy. It's like it's all Marines, isn't it, at the end of the day?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, you've got Militia and Mechanicum and stuff, but it is about Marines, ultimately.
And I guess the history of it as well, in a way. Because it's the history of the 40k universe. Which in on itself is really interesting and it's quite fun to read about. Like, I'm still learning stuff. So like, I've read most of the novels, but I'm still learning stuff pretty much every time I watch Lee doing his Titans. Anytime he's talking about Horus Heresy, I learn something new.
Yeah. Lee's good for that.
Yeah. But it's still being like, even though it's historical, it's still been expanded on.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting.
That's the thing, because it was written from such a high vantage point previously, they've got so much room to flesh it out and play around with that you can expand the bits you want to expand and introduce interesting new characters, things like that, without it kind of removing what has already gone before.
Yes. Exactly. Hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, you have also you know the end.
Yeah.
So anything can happen because you know how it's gonna end.
Yeah.
But I was gonna track back to Matt. You said, both of you have mentioned the first book in the Heresy series. That's the one. When someone asks what we're doing, I give them that book.
Yeah.
Horus Rising. Read this. Come back for more if you want it. And everyone comes back for more.
Yeah. It's an absolute masterpiece of a book. Dan absolutely nailed the tone and the characterization and everything about it. Just is peak heresy, basically.
Yeah, and you get that feeling like this is going to be something big.
Yeah.
I mean, brother against brother. It starts off with someone do the treacherous thing of making Horus fall. Did he fall on his own accord, or was it tricked? You want to know more.
Yeah.
And I think it's nice that they fleshed them out, because it gives the Marines so much more character than just being endless murder machines.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's,
It gives you a nice kind of, I guess in a way it kind of helps. It changes your perspective a little bit, doesn't it? Because then you go back to like the 40k setting and you look at some of these, the first founding chapters, or even some of the traitors, and you can kind of like understand them a little better. Particularly the older characters and the way that they engage with this whole new galaxy and new characters and things like that. You get a better feel for it. I can't remember which novel it is, but there was comments made by Alpha Legion about the new Primaris. You know how they are you messing with perfection and stuff like that by creating the Primaris.
right.
You sit there and you're thinking like, okay, fair enough. And then I think the same week I read that novel, I was reading Legion.
Right. Okay.
And it was like, okay, that gives me a little bit of a better insight into, that sort of mindset and the way that they were thinking. It's like, yeah, okay, they did turn traitor, but they understood certain things. They were created, and they were the killing machine. They were perfection, which I kind of like.
Or did they turn traitor?
Well, yeah, there's always that thing with the Alpha Legion, isn't there?
Yeah.
Absolutely love it.
Yeah, and I've done the same with those in my Raven Guard army. I have actually some those eBay purchases you do. I got some Alpha Legion, so I just put some masking on when I painted them black. So on some of my models, you can see a shine through of Alpha Legion.
Nice. That's very cool.
Yeah, that stems from the conflict when they are killing the new Space Marines that Corvus is trying to do.
Yeah.
And the thing I think with this hobby is that you can do this stuff, like small mini Easter eggs on your base, on your model, in your markings of your models. And when you sell on, they can go, oh, that's what it is. And they understand, or they can even see it before we tell them. Like, it could be.
Is that
Yeah, storytelling through models is a huge part of the joy of Warhammer. And it's definitely something that comes across in Heresy a lot as well.
Yeah, I was about to say that it does come across a lot in Heresy. I mean, how many consoles do you have, Matt, just for your Space Wolves?
So I've now got the Moritzka, the Siegebreaker, a Plain Centurion, Caster of the Runes, the Wolf Priest equivalent.
Speaker of the Dead.
Speaker of the Dead, thank you. I knew it had something to do with death. So that's 5. Then I've got I've got two Speaks of the Dead, so that's 6. I think I've got a Terminator Centurion somewhere as well. Somewhere I've got a part-built Champion. And another Centurion with a Great Axe, so something like 7 or 8.
And I know Mortis has quite a few, and I've known on multiple occasions late night Discord chats with Mr. FoxyDM, who unfortunately couldn't be with us tonight, he's kind of turned around before now and gone, alright, you need to make one of every console. Because, you never know when you're going to need each one.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yep. I agree.
I don't think I'm that far off actually with the Space Wolves having one of each. I think the only major one I'm missing now, I think, is a Master of the Forge.
Probably. Sounds about right.
But I'll get around to him eventually.
2 days later, look what I bought, guys. Whoops.
No, the Wolves are definitely on a bit of a back burner for now. To try to get the Sons of Horus done, and also my 40k New Year, New Army project as well.
Oh, yes.
Which is also Wolf themed, but 10,000 years later.
Yeah. They don't. They yes. I know what you mean now. Now you said that.
Yes. And to my shame, I'm actually building 40k at the moment rather than 30k on a 30k podcast. But
heresy.
Well, actually, no, it's 40k. Hey.
Hey. But
yeah, as I say, all of the Sons of Horror stuff is now built and awaiting spraying. So I have to do that off camera, and then hopefully for the next one, I'll have the next tactical squad or something ready to paint.
Well, I was just about to say we're gonna have. So we are supposed to have like a section of the podcast which is all about our hobby progress and everything. But seeing as though this is the first one, and Matt, you've kind of already answered, what you're up to at the moment. What are you currently working on at the moment?
Well, if we look at the camera, you can see the poster boys of Space Marines. That is the Ultramarines. And I'm doing right now the Golden Boys.
Is that the Suzerain?
Yeah, this is Aaron, and I have already done their ride. The Dreadclaw.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
And I'm also building these guys. Oh, not that one here, it's the wrong weapon.
Wrong one.
Yeah, I did a Thunderhammer that wasn't allowed, apparently. These are the...
Are they the jump packs?
Yeah, these are the special Invectari Jump Marines. Yeah. So I 3D printed some of these old Chaos Raptor jump packs, and I made with the Ultramarine torsos and heads because they all have Artificer armor. And as you can see, I'm doing this for the theme. It's a marble-based. There's the camera. Marble-based of Calth.
Nice.
Oh, I like that. That looks nice.
So I'll have marble in all my ruins and on the bases and on the shields. So this army will meet up with the word bearers at Calth.
Nice. I like the marble. The marble's so nice.
Yeah, and it's a really easy technique I think we should talk about later when we're talking about techniques in some podcast.
Yeah, definitely, because this marble's definitely something I've personally struggled with over the years, and I know a few other people personally who've tried marble. Again, they are all heresy players as well. It seems to be mostly Horus Heresy players I know that have tried to do marble, struggled, and just gone nope and given up.
Yeah,
it's a more popular technique.
Well, there are two primary techniques. The one is the old school painting, and the other one is using airbrush and cheating.
Yeah,
within quotes.
I love how you acknowledge it's cheating.
Well, within quotes. It's a technique. But we'll talk about that later. So I'm doing an Ultramarine army. It's going to be 3,000 points for starters. It's based around moving people and giving multiple threats. So a lot of chaplains in large assault units and suzerains to form the spearhead.
Nice.
Sound good to say. Do like the... I can never pronounce the name, so I'm literally going to call them the Ultramarines with shields. Can never pronounce that name of that unit, but I really like that unit. It's cool. I'm just a sucker for shields.
Yeah.
Breaches. Anything with a shield.
These are like the most blinged out models there is. So much gold on them. It's hardly any blue.
Yeah.
So, well, it's gonna be fun. And I'm using enamels to make them really, really dirty and like they've been pummeled. Like the planet is, the sun is burning and trying to collide with the surface. So it's all gonna be very dirty, and I hope.
I'm sure it's gonna look brilliant.
It sounds cracking.
It does sound cracking. It does sound really good. I look forward to seeing more of that. I'm trying to get this second Praetor done. And we've got Tarvitz as well. Sat looking at me longingly for some paint to be applied to him. Yeah. Our current heresy projects are, like, as yourselves, they are numerous, half done, half built, or half painted. But they are all there. We've got the Mastodon still to finish. Tarvitz. More Sons of Horus, I think, somewhere. The Storm Eagle. But from everything that Mort's told me about the Storm Eagle, if I do that on the podcast, I will be muted.
You've been swearing extensively.
I will be muted because I will be getting creative. If it's as bad as everyone keeps telling me it is, I will definitely be muted because I can see myself getting very creative with my words.
It's not a fun kid.
You're not helping.
Sorry.
Literally everyone I've spoken to, like, oh, you know, if you got on, well, I've just got out my Fire Raptor, and they're like, oh, what? Like, oh, it's not a fun. Why does everyone keep saying, well, just wait till you start doing it? Like, oh.
The Fire Raptor isn't as bad as the Storm Eagle, if that helps.
Oh, that makes me feel loads better. I don't have one of them, so no.
Well, I tried.
Yeah. The Mastodon was a lot of fun. Like, the building the interior of the Mastodon was a hell of a lot of fun. We've just had some really piss poor weather recently, so I've not actually been able to get a lot of stuff primed. As much stuff as I would like, anyway. Not something on the Mastodon scale, anyway.
Do you not prime with your airbrush?
I do not currently have an airbrush.
Yeah.
You need an airbrush.
Yeah, I could say, who needs an airbrush?
For some reason, I thought you did.
No. It's something I have been looking into, because there's a lot of techniques and effects I wouldn't mind giving a go. I'm well aware that it'll take me weeks, possibly months, to learn how to do those said techniques, but I am determined.
You say that, but I mean, I picked up... I've had the airbrush for over a year. I picked it up for the first time just before Christmas, and the first unit I've done is those Terminators. You'll get the hang of it pretty quickly. From a kind of actually painting models perspective, I don't think the learning curve is too terrifying. There are obviously a lot of advanced techniques you can do with it, but just pick them up slowly over time and keep practicing. But I mean, the number one thing that has been a kind of quality of life improvement is the priming side and the varnishing side, because not having to rely on rattle cans in the British winter
Yeah.
is an absolute godsend. Being able to just go, I fancy doing this unit. It's not currently primed. 10 minutes later, it's primed.
It's primed, yeah.
Rain, snow, shine, whatever the weather's doing, it doesn't matter. And just gives you a lot more freedom from that perspective. And also base coating as well. Like, even if all you did was buy a bargain basement airbrush with a 0.4mm needle and a booth, and even then the booth is an optional extra, you can just use cardboard provided you've got decent ventilation and a mask, and all of a sudden the slowest, dullest part of hobby is over within half an hour for a full unit.
That's the reason why I want to get one. Just so much time taken up by base coating.
Yeah, I would say that when you are considering starting with airbrush, the first brush that you buy can be a no-named, low-priced thing.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
What you should consider is what compressor are you going to use, because
Yes,
the compressor needs to have a life of its own for quite a long time, and it's going to be quite abused. Because I mean, a simple airbrush with like the 0.4mm needle, you can use from almost everything that you need to do to get started.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to start with an OSL with 3 different colors in a grading movement all over the model. You're going to start with like priming and perhaps pre-shade. I would suggest that you look at a good compressor and a cheap airbrush to start, and just learn the basics, and then after that you kind of decide that this is going to be my Christmas present or whatever, and just save up the money, buy a good Iwata or Badger.
Badger, just because of the name. Badger.
Yeah, but it's American, so the parts are quite expensive in the EU and I think UK.
Yeah, UK they'll be a bit expensive, won't they?
But the Iwata is Japanese, so it's also expensive. But
mine's harder than Steinbeck.
Yeah, my next is gonna be harder than Steinbeck, that's for sure.
But yeah, it's the 2-in-1 Ultra, so trigger control. That's the other thing you want. If you're going to do anything more serious, you need to have the variable trigger control.
Right, okay.
Because it means that, but basically what that controls is how far back the needle pulls. So if I can unscrew the cap, so that's the airbrush needle at the front, and as you pull back on the trigger, the needle moves back.
All right, yeah, got you.
And that then dictates, with the aperture at the front of the nozzle, dictates how much paint is put into the mix. So yeah, if you're going to do anything even vaguely serious, you'll need to have that, really.
Yeah.
Don't
worry, it's fine. I'll be messaging one of you guys when I've got one sorted and going, right, come on, online lesson, teach me, oh masters and wise ones.
Yeah, as Maul says, like, your first one can be 20 quid from Hobbycraft, if not less. Like, you can usually get them if you get a decent compressor. Sometimes they do come with airbrushes included.
Yeah.
And those will be kind of fairly cheap, basic type airbrushes, which will be enough to get you going.
Fair enough. So it's, like I said, it's something I'm definitely going to look into. I do find, particularly when it comes to like, and I say this with all due respect to any like 40k enthusiast out there, but I do find that like the time and effort that goes into the heresy side of things is 10 times more. Like it's a whole different level when it comes to the heresy side of things. I don't know what it is. Like I say 40k army, I'm like, yep, that's awesome. And then I see some of these Horus Heresy armies and it's like, that's mind blowing.
There is definitely a step up in hobby quality as a general rule of average.
Yeah.
I think it's also the style that makes the difference, though. 40k stuff is very much still done the heavy metal style, so it's all the kind of clean edge highlighting and all the rest of it, whereas Horus Heresy stuff tends more towards the the grittier, kind of closer to realism type designs.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Matt, for putting that into the more appropriate words as opposed to me insulting half the community. Sorry. I do have a brother. Honest. Oh, this is just my general state of being. Is this? So something I want to touch on before we come to a close. Mm-hmm. Obviously, in the future there will be 4 of us. We are currently missing one of our merry band. But things for the future, guys. So our viewers have got an idea of what's to come. Obviously, we've mentioned techniques, painting techniques and stuff.
Yeah. And there will be, I think, talking about fluff, favorite units, some shenanigans, like counters for this and that.
We like shenanigans.
And how to build your army. What should be the stock in your army? Depending on Legion, and I mean doing the fair bit of tactics and list building without going to break the game. Just what should you have? And of course the game that only exists in the Horus Heresy, the Sol Mortalis, which is a great starting point for everyone.
Really is, yeah. It's a brilliant way to get into Heresy as a whole.
So much fun. So much fun. I think I played more Zone Mortalis than I've played anything else. And I've loved every minute of it.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. List building, gameplay stuff, favourite hobby moments, future plans, new armies, new lists.
Hobby progress.
See if Mort can get to all 18 legions by the end of the year.
Oh, I hope. Are we setting him goals now? Shall I dig out a book? Do we need to be setting a book on running bets on this?
Yeah. See how.
I think my goal for before pension is having all 18 legions, right?
No, end of the year.
End of the year, a bit optimistic.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's fun to watch. It's fun for us to watch you run around like a mad headless chicken.
Yep, I'll imagine that.
Right. Well, I think that is actually all we've got time for. So, from me, and Mort, and Matt, thank you very much for joining us, and we will catch you all next time.
Cheers all, ta-ra.
Cheers all, and the Mechanicum Ninja's new rules.